I need to get this off my chest because I'm sitting here in my house, looking at the 10th missed call from my mother today, and I feel absolutely nothing. No guilt, no sadness, no obligation to call her back. And the crazy thing is, 5 years ago, I would have answered on the first ring, desperate for any scrap of attention or approval from her. But that person doesn't exist anymore. My name is Rachel, I'm 32 years old, and I haven't spoken to my parents in 3 years. Not because of some petty argument or a misunderstanding that got out of hand. I cut them off deliberately, coldly, and completely. And now that their lives have fallen apart, they want me to come save them. Absolutely not. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand why I'm not the villain in this story, even though my extended family seems to think I am. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, the oldest of 2 kids. My brother Tyler is 2 years younger than me. When we were little, we were close, typical sibling stuff, fighting over toys 1 minute and building blanket forts together the next. My parents were normal, working class people. Dad was an electrician, Mom worked part-time as a medical receptionist. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Everything changed when Tyler was 13 and I was 15. He got in with a bad crowd at school, started smoking weed, and my parents handled it in the worst possible way. My dad went full authoritarian, grounding Tyler for months, taking away everything he cared about. My mom went the opposite direction, making excuses for him, saying it was just a phase, that all kids experimented. Their conflicting parenting styles just pushed Tyler further away. By the time he was 15, he wasn't just smoking weed anymore. He was drinking, popping pills, staying out all night. My parents were so consumed with Tyler's behavior that I basically became invisible. I was a good kid. Great grades, volleyball team captain, volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends. I did everything right, thinking that maybe if I was good enough, my parents would notice me. They didn't. Every family dinner was about Tyler. Every conversation was about Tyler. Every ounce of emotional energy they had went to Tyler. When I got accepted to the University of Colorado with a partial academic scholarship, my mom's response was, "That's nice, honey." When Tyler got caught shoplifting a week later, they spent 3 hours crying and talking about where they went wrong as parents. I wish I could say it got better, but it got so much worse. Tyler dropped out of high school at 17. He was using harder drugs by then. I'm pretty sure it was cocaine, maybe other stuff too. My parents' response was to enable him completely. They let him live at home rent-free. They gave him money for food that obviously went to drugs. They made excuse after excuse: he's sick, he's struggling, he needs support, he'll get better. Meanwhile, I was working 2 part-time jobs to cover what my scholarship didn't pay for. I asked my parents if they could help with books one semester, and my dad said they were tight on money right now. That same week, I found out they'd given Tyler $800 to get back on his feet. I graduated college with a degree in computer science and got a good job at a tech company in Boulder. I was 22, finally independent, and I thought maybe now I could have a relationship with my parents that wasn't all about Tyler. Nope. Every phone call was about Tyler. Every visit home was dominated by Tyler's latest crisis. He'd been arrested. He'd lost another job. He'd gotten kicked out of another apartment. He needed rehab. He was in rehab. He'd left rehab early. The cycle never ended. And my parents were drowning in it. Financially, emotionally, in every way. They'd taken out a second mortgage on their house to pay for Tyler's various rehab stints, legal fees, and debts. They'd drained their retirement savings. My dad was working overtime constantly, and my mom had gone full-time at the medical office. I tried to talk to them about it. I really did. I told them they were enabling Tyler, that giving him money and bailing him out wasn't helping him, it was just prolonging his addiction. My mom would cry and say I didn't understand how hard it was to watch your child suffer. My dad would get defensive and say they were doing what parents are supposed to do, supporting their child. I pointed out that I was also their child, and they'd never supported me like that. My mom actually said, "You never needed us like Tyler does." That hurt more than I can even express. I didn't need them because I'd learned early on that I couldn't depend on them. I'd raised myself, put myself through college, built my own life, all while they poured every resource they had into my brother's bottomless pit of addiction. When I was 25, I met my now husband, David. He's amazing, stable, kind, successful. He's a physical therapist, and he comes from a really functional, supportive family. Meeting his parents was shocking to me because they were actually interested in my life. They asked me questions about my job, my hobbies, my thoughts on things. They treated their kids like individuals, not like problems to be solved. David and I got engaged after a year of dating. I was so happy, and I made the mistake of thinking my parents would be happy for me too. I called my mom to tell her, and she said, "Oh, that's wonderful, sweetie." Then, literally 30 seconds later, "Hey, while I have you on the phone, can you talk to Tyler? He's been saying he wants to get clean, but he needs money for a new program we found." My engagement call turned into a 20-minute conversation about Tyler and whether I could loan them $3,000 for his rehab. I said no. My mom cried and said I was being selfish, that family helps family. I pointed out that they'd never helped me pay for college, never helped me with my first apartment deposit, never helped me with anything, really. My mom said that was different because I was capable and Tyler was sick. David was furious on my behalf. He couldn't believe how they treated me. His parents were more excited about our engagement than mine were. We planned a small wedding, about 80 people, nice but not extravagant. We were paying for most of it ourselves, though David's parents insisted on contributing to the rehearsal dinner. My parents said they couldn't afford to contribute anything because of Tyler's expenses. I said it was fine, I hadn't expected them to. 2 months before the wedding, Tyler got arrested again. Possession with intent to distribute. He'd apparently started dealing to support his habit. The bail was $15,000. My parents didn't have it. They called me, begging me to help bail him out. I said no. I told them Tyler needed to face consequences for once in his life. That maybe sitting in jail would be the wake-up call he needed. My dad called me cold-hearted. My mom sobbed on the phone about how I was abandoning my brother. They took out a loan against their house to bail him out. Tyler was out of jail within 48 hours and missed his court date 3 weeks later because he was high. There was now a warrant for his arrest. My wedding was 6 weeks away at this point. I called my parents to confirm some details. They were supposed to be handling a few small things, like coordinating with some relatives who were coming from out of town. My mom barely remembered anything about the wedding. She was completely consumed with Tyler's legal situation. Then, 3 weeks before my wedding, Tyler was arrested again. For violating bail conditions and missing his court date. The new bail was $25,000, and my parents didn't have it. There was nothing left to borrow against. My mom called me crying. She said they needed me to postpone the wedding and use the money we'd saved for it to bail Tyler out. She said family should come first, and Tyler needed us right now. I hung up on her. David had to physically stop me from throwing my phone across the room. They actually expected me to cancel my wedding, the most important day of my life so far, to bail my addict brother out of jail for the 100th time. They genuinely could not understand why I wouldn't do it. I called them back an hour later, when I was calmer, and I told them no. I told them Tyler was not my responsibility, that I was done being treated like I mattered less than him, and that if they couldn't prioritize my wedding, they shouldn't bother coming. My dad said, "Are you seriously saying you'd rather have a party than help your brother?" I said, "I'm seriously saying that I've watched you destroy yourselves for Tyler my entire adult life, and I'm not going to join you. You've chosen him over me every single time, and I'm done." My mom said I was being dramatic. She said parents can't just give up on their kids. I told her she'd given up on me a long time ago, she just hadn't noticed because I didn't need to be bailed out of jail. They came to the wedding. They were late, they looked miserable, and they left early because my mom was too upset to stay. They didn't give a speech, barely talked to anyone, and spent most of the reception on their phones dealing with Tyler's lawyer. My wedding day, which should have been perfect, was tainted by their presence and their obvious resentment that I'd forced them to choose between being there and helping Tyler. Even on my wedding day, I came second. That was when something in me broke. Or maybe healed. I'm not sure which. David and I went on our honeymoon to Italy, and when we got back, I sent my parents an email. I laid out everything, every time they'd chosen Tyler over me, every milestone of mine they'd missed or ignored, every way they'd made me feel worthless and invisible. I told them I was done. I said I needed space, and I'd reach out when and if I was ready. My mom called immediately, crying, saying I was overreacting. My dad sent a long email about how they'd done their best, how I was being ungrateful, how they'd sacrificed so much for both of us. Neither of them actually apologized or acknowledged anything I'd said. I blocked their numbers. I blocked them on social media. I told my extended family not to give them my address when David and I bought a house a few months later. And you know what? My life got so much better. Without the constant drama of Tyler's addiction and my parents' enabling, I had space to breathe. To be happy. To focus on my marriage, my career, my own mental health. I started therapy to work through years of feeling like I wasn't good enough, and slowly, I started to heal. I got promoted at work. David and I bought our house. We traveled. We got a dog. We built a life that was peaceful and fulfilling and completely separate from the chaos I'd grown up in. For 3 years, I had no contact with my parents. I heard things through the grapevine. Tyler was in and out of jail, my parents were struggling financially, they'd had to sell their house and move into an apartment. But it wasn't my problem anymore. Then, 2 months ago, my uncle called me. He said I needed to know that things were really bad. My parents had lost their house, they were both working but barely making ends meet, and they were too proud to ask for help but desperately needed it. He said Tyler was currently in prison, 3-year sentence for drug charges, and with him finally out of the picture, my parents were lost. He said they asked about me all the time, that they regretted how things had ended, and they missed me. He thought maybe enough time had passed that we could reconcile. I thanked him for letting me know and said I'd think about it. I didn't tell him that I felt absolutely nothing when he told me my parents were struggling. A few weeks after that call, my mom somehow got my new phone number. She called crying, saying she was sorry, that they'd made mistakes, that they wanted to see me. She said they needed help, they were about to be evicted from their apartment, my dad's health was failing from the stress, and they had nowhere else to turn. I asked her what specifically she was sorry for. She couldn't answer. She just kept saying, everything, I'm sorry for everything, but she couldn't actually name a single thing she'd done wrong. I asked if she understood why I'd cut them off. She said I'd been upset about Tyler getting so much attention but that I had to understand he was sick. She still didn't get it. After 3 years, she still didn't understand that they hadn't just given Tyler attention, they'd sacrificed everything for him, including their relationship with me. They'd made me feel invisible and worthless my entire life. They'd missed or ruined every important moment I'd had. And even now, calling me for the first time in 3 years, she couldn't actually apologize for any of it. I told her I couldn't help them. She said I was their daughter, that I had a responsibility to them. I said they'd given up the right to claim that when they'd made it clear for 2 decades that I wasn't a priority. She started crying harder, saying they were going to lose their apartment, that they had nowhere to go. I felt bad for about 30 seconds, and then I remembered my wedding day. I remembered every unanswered phone call when I called to share good news. I remembered being 21 and struggling to pay rent while they gave Tyler hundreds of dollars a week. I said, Mom, you spent my entire college fund on Tyler's rehab. You took out a second mortgage for him. You bankrupted yourselves for him. You chose him every single time, and now you want me to bail you out? Where was this energy when I needed help? Where was this desperation to maintain our relationship when I was the one reaching out? She didn't have an answer. She just kept crying and saying it wasn't fair, that they'd done their best. I told her their best wasn't good enough, and I hung up. David asked me if I was okay. I realized I was. I felt guilty because you're supposed to feel guilty when your parents are struggling, right? But underneath the guilt was relief. Relief that I'd held my boundary. Relief that I wasn't getting sucked back into their drama. My mom has called 47 times in the past 2 weeks. I haven't answered. She's left voicemails, sent texts, even had my uncle call me again. The basic message is always the same: they're desperate, they need money, they need help, and I'm their only option. My dad finally called last week from a number I didn't recognize, so I answered by accident. He said they were about to be homeless, that he couldn't believe I'd let this happen to them, that after everything they'd sacrificed for me, this is how I was repaying them. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. I said, "What exactly did you sacrifice for me, Dad? What did you ever give me that you didn't give Tyler 10 times over?" He sputtered something about raising me, feeding me, keeping a roof over my head, the absolute bare minimum requirements of being a parent. I pointed out that he'd done way more than that for Tyler, including bankrupting himself multiple times over. He said Tyler was sick and needed more help. I said, "And I didn't need help? I didn't need parents who showed up for me? I didn't need support and attention and love? I just needed nothing because I wasn't a drug addict." He got quiet. Then he said, "We did love you, Rachel. We do love you." I said, "You love Tyler." I was just there. And you know what? I made peace with that. I built a life without you. And now that Tyler's in prison and can't be your full-time project anymore, you suddenly remember you have another kid. But I'm not interested in being your backup plan. He started to argue, and I hung up. I blocked that number too. Now my extended family is getting involved. Aunts and uncles calling me, telling me I need to help my parents, that they're family, that I'll regret this when they're gone. Some of them are sympathetic to my side, but most of them think I'm being cruel. My cousin posted something on Facebook about people who abandon their struggling parents that was clearly directed at me. I didn't respond, but several of my friends did, pointing out that my parents had essentially abandoned me emotionally years ago. The thing is, I know my parents are struggling. I know they're facing eviction. I know my dad has health problems. And intellectually, I understand that they're victims of Tyler's addiction too, in a way. Addiction destroys families, and they were trying to save their son. But here's what I keep coming back to: they had 2 children. They chose to sacrifice everything, their finances, their health, their relationship with me for one of them. That was a choice. Maybe not a conscious one, but a choice nonetheless. And the consequences of that choice are not my responsibility. I didn't make them bail Tyler out repeatedly. I didn't make them take out loans they couldn't afford. I didn't make them drain their retirement savings. I didn't make them ignore me for 20 years. Those were all their decisions. And now they want me to save them from the consequences of those decisions. They want me to give them money I've worked hard for, open my home to them, let them back into my life, without ever actually acknowledging or apologizing for how they treated me. No. Absolutely not. David supports me completely, by the way. He's seen how much happier and healthier I've been since cutting them off. He was there for all the worst moments: my mom forgetting my birthday because Tyler was in detox again, my dad missing my college graduation because Tyler needed a ride somewhere, all of it. He thinks I'm absolutely right to maintain my boundaries. His parents agree. They've basically adopted me as their own daughter at this point, and they're horrified by how my parents treated me. His mom actually said, "I don't care if one of my kids was struggling, I'd never make my other child feel invisible because of it." That's what good parents do. They love all their children, even when one needs more help. They don't sacrifice one child for another. I've been in therapy throughout all of this, and my therapist has helped me work through a lot of the guilt. She's pointed out that my parents are calling me because they need money and resources, not because they've genuinely reflected on their behavior and want to repair our relationship. And she's right. Not once in any of these calls or messages have my parents said, "We understand why you cut us off, and you were right to do it. We failed you as parents, and we're sorry." It's all been, "We need help, you're our daughter, how can you abandon us?" They still see me as a resource, not as a person they hurt. So no, I'm not helping them. I'm not giving them money. I'm not letting them move in with David and me. I'm not rebuilding a relationship with people who have never actually valued me. If they end up homeless, that's tragic, but it's not my fault. They made their choices. Tyler made his choices. I'm making mine. I choose peace. I choose my mental health. I choose the family I've built with David and his parents. I choose the life I've worked hard to create. I don't choose more chaos. I don't choose more disappointment. I don't choose people who've proven over and over that I don't matter to them. Some people will think I'm heartless. Some people will say that no matter what, they're my parents and I owe them something. Some people will say I'll regret this when they're gone. Maybe they're right. Maybe when my parents die, I'll be overwhelmed with regret and guilt. Maybe I'll wish I'd helped them, reconciled with them, given them another chance. But I don't think so. I think I'll feel sad that we never had the relationship I wanted, that they never became the parents I needed. But I don't think I'll regret protecting myself from more hurt. Because here's the thing people don't understand about cutting off your parents: it's not a decision you make lightly. It's not about one fight or one bad moment. It's the result of years, sometimes decades, of pain and disappointment. It's about finally realizing that they're never going to change, never going to be who you need them to be, and deciding that you deserve better. I deserved better than parents who saw me as the easy kid, the one who didn't need anything, the one who could be ignored because I wasn't actively destroying my life. I deserved better than coming second to my brother's addiction every single day of my childhood and young adulthood. I deserved better than parents who missed my college graduation, barely acknowledged my engagement, and ruined my wedding day because Tyler was in jail again. I deserved better, and I'm not going to accept less anymore. Not even from my parents. Especially not from my parents. So they can call all they want. They can send flying monkeys in the form of relatives who think I'm being cruel. They can play the victim and tell everyone who'll listen about their terrible daughter who abandoned them in their time of need. I don't care anymore. I'm done. Tyler gets out of prison in about 2.5 years. I'm sure my parents will rebuild their lives around him again, drain whatever resources they can manage to scrape together, and the cycle will continue. And I won't be there to watch it. I'll be here, in my peaceful home with my husband and my dog, living the life I built for myself without them. Working my job that I'm good at, maintaining friendships with people who actually value me, maybe starting my own family someday with David. And I'll be happy. Genuinely, sustainably happy in a way I never was when I was trying to earn my parents' love and attention. That happiness is worth more than any guilt trip they can throw at me. So no, Mom and Dad, I'm not calling you back. I'm not sending you money. I'm not saving you from the consequences of your choices. You chose Tyler over me every day for 20 years. Now I'm choosing me. And it feels pretty damn good.